First, my name is Jake Bennett. I'm at StandWithUs. My role here is Associate Director of Policy and Desert States Regional Director. For the last 6 years prior to joining StandWithUs last month, I was over at Israeli American Council and focused on state legislative action to combat BDS. And the two main tools that I worked on were state anti-BDS laws and IHRA anti-Semitism definition laws. And I'll just spend a minute on that. First, I'll say anti-BDS laws have been adopted by 37 states at this point, which is very helpful and effective. They deal mainly with the economic threat of BDS. And the way that they work is they say that the states will not contract with and or invest in companies that are boycotting Israel or Israeli companies. Okay, so how does that play out? We've seen it play out in Unilever Ben & Jerry's, where Unilever reversed the boycott of Judea and Samaria. We saw it play out in Morningstar Analytics in their reversal of blacklisting and blackballing Israeli companies that operate beyond the 1967 Green Line, which is most every company in Israel. That was threatening investments in Israeli banks and telecom companies and all of that. The piece that it doesn't really cover is the demonization of Israel, and that's a big part of what BDS does, and that's what we're going to get to in this call. Is what's happening at the town halls. There's not really an economic threat, but the way that the BDS movement, I'll take a step back in a moment to define what it is and what it means. But the way that they operate in their goal to destroy Israel, and that is their goal, and they say so, is to try to isolate Israel socially, to alienate people from Israel, and even to alienate Jews from Israel. That's their modus operandi. So even if they know that they're not going to have an economic impact, they'll do it anyway. And they'll come back year after year after year in city councils. We've seen it in Boston. We've seen it in Somerville, which is a city that's a part of the greater Boston area, year after year, because they'll win over some people in their demonization of Israel. Yeah, so I'll give you one. I was mentioning Boston. So Cambridge a few years ago had a BDS resolution. They wanted the city hall to boycott Israeli companies. So we worked together with a number of organizations, StandWithUs, Israeli American Council, with a grassroots outreach showing people what's the impact of this. It's not about over there. It's not just about Israel. It's about this city. In that city of Boston, you had 400 companies that had partnerships with Israel. You had it was many thousands of jobs, and I don't remember the figure offhand, but tens of thousands of jobs that were related to those companies. That boycott was going to be, in effect, boycotting itself, boycotting the city, boycotting those jobs, impacting the city, and more than that, it was going to tear a big rip into the fabric of society and create this tribalism and conflict between pro-Israel people, Jews, Israelis, and people who were taking the side of the destroyers and the jihadists. And that was compelling enough that the city council voted it down. I'll give you another example from about a year and a half ago, just a little north of there in Burlington, Vermont. You had a city council member who was an immigrant from a Muslim African country. He had never met a Jew. He had never been to Israel. He was on the social justice committee in Burlington, and he was approached by a local Palestinian activist who told him his narrative of Israel as this colonial power, destroying Arabs, destroying Palestinians, etc. And this guy, Ali Dieng, I think was his name, so this is horrible. I never knew this. This is terrible. What can we do? And the guy said, well, I just happen to have a resolution right here that you can do. It was a BDS resolution. It came straight from the BDS movement. Okay. Ali said, this is great. Let's do it. And he ran this thing, and it became a big hoopla that really tore the city apart. And if you watched, I ended up reaching out to the sponsor, speaking to Ali, had lengthy conversations with him. He had lengthy conversations after putting forward this resolution with local members of the community there in Burlington. He had no idea what he was stepping into. In this case, he was made to be a useful idiot for a jihadist activist, and he didn't like it, and he didn't want to be a part of it, and he was ashamed of what he had been dragged into. And in the end, he said, "What can I do? What can I do?" And I said to him, "Let's do something constructive. How about instead of boycotting everyone, how about we get people together? How about we host a regular interfaith dinner to get people to talk together and meet each other and know each other?" He said, "Oh my God, I love that. This is perfect. Let's do it." And that's what he did. He ended up getting rid of the BDS resolution and switching it over to a cross-cultural coalition building community dinner. That came out good. But I'll tell you another aspect of this same thing. Now, the hearings on this went on for hours, 5 hours, 7 hours, multiple hearings. It was a wreck. The mayor of the town happened to be a Jewish guy, and the mayor of the town wrote this amazing letter, this beautiful letter that he sent to all the Jewish organizations, saying, "I oppose BDS. This is terrible. This is this is bad for our society, bad for our city, etc." While the hearing was going on, I'm texting with Ali, the original sponsor. I said, I just got this letter in my inbox from the mayor. It's amazing. Can you read it? He said, "Well, the mayor's here. I'll ask him to read it." I said, "Perfect." We're texting back and forth. Ask him to read it. And he writes back. He says he won't read it. I said, "What?" He said he's sitting right next to me. I'm asking him to read it. He didn't want to read it because he didn't want to aggravate or piss off all of the anti-Israel activists in the room. He didn't want to lose votes. So what was that letter that he sent us? All right, in legal terms, the letter was bullshit. It was pure. That's a joke. It's not exactly a legal term. It was bullshit. It was pure manipulation of the Jewish community to say I'm on your side. I recognize this is wrong. But he wasn't going to do anything about it. That letter wasn't for public consumption. He wouldn't read his own letter out loud at the public hearing that was happening at that moment.